Why is it important to disengage periodically from the crowd, from being influenced, from distracting yourself, from coping mechanisms? It's important to get in touch with who it is that you really are without all of those things, to become more and more familiar with what your specific energy is and calls for, and what your specific essence is here. There are so many gifts just waiting to be expressed when you tap into your essence and become familiar and comfortable with operating from that space. When we are true to this, we can come into a natural order. And what's been happening is, with the proliferation of marketing and advertising, because of this capitalistic society that we live in, a massive amount of people around the world traded in experiencing from their essence to be trained, to be conditioned, to be pretty much like everyone else who is influenced by the trends, popular society. And this makes sense in one way. Unfortunately, it feels safer to be on the same page with everyone, so that there's a feeling of acceptance and understanding that when you are with a group of people or with a certain person, you have a common ground already. You can talk about a show that you've watched. You can talk about a new style of clothes that everyone's starting to wear. And did you get yours yet? Or this new diet, or hey, did you hear about that piece of information that's just been let out? All of this stuff, this consistent, incessant rolling out of information meant to be a thread that ties everyone together, is actually creating more suffering than you understand. The media and the news and corporations and the marketing and the advertising and the big money and all of that, they are not looking out for your best interest. They are looking out for the dollar. And there's a trick that they've been using for so long to ensure that everyone stays on that conveyor belt, constantly feeding that system, the trends, stay on top of the trends, stay focused here. The trick is, it feels like you're being connected and in communion with everyone else. However, you've forfeited who it is you actually are, your essence. And what ends up happening is, by forfeiting this day in and day out, we continue to be in denial, because we know that deep down, this isn't really what I want. This isn't really what I want to be talking about. This isn't really what I want to be spending my money or my energy on, or my day. I have these inner desires that I haven't paid attention to. And because each day goes by so quickly and you've just been wrapped up in distraction the whole time, and there's never enough time, you have to take care of all of these things, then you're exhausted by the time you go to bed, and then you wake up and you are conditioned to stay in the same habits and routines, because they're just that, habits and routines. They've built a groove within your system so that that's where you are naturally going to go back into every day. And so this is why it's very important to disengage and to take some time, step back from the distractions, Step back from popular culture. Step back from media. Take a day, take 2 days without being influenced by anyone or anything, and become silent. And start to entertain the thought of building a relationship with yourself, of establishing the notion of trust with yourself, with that essence. To ask, what is it? And to start paying attention to that part of you and inviting it to come out. The repression and the hurt from not being seen or acknowledged has been very painful for a very long time. And you have to do a lot of work to build a trust back with that part of yourself so that you can feel confident as you begin to introduce more of that into your daily life. You can do things like begin having more conversations that are more meaningful to you. And if you're in a conversation where you're talking about something that you don't want to be talking about, it doesn't feel good, you're just disassociating, you're just in the clouds, hovering above, waiting for you to finish the conversation to go back in, draining your energy, draining your life force. If you find that you're having these experiences, catch them quickly. Catch them quickly and move into a different direction. And start to become familiar with that practice. If you're eating something and you know you really don't want to be eating it, it doesn't really feel good, but you're eating it because everyone else around you is, and it's convenient. Begin to become brave enough to introduce different ways of eating if it feels right to you, whatever feels right to you. Become a pioneer and be an example for those around you, where you begin to take the reins of your life and you begin to have a say of what it is that you truly want to be experiencing in this life based on your inner knowing and your essence of who it is you really are. And what happens when more and more people do this is like when they thought they were connected and in resonance with each other because they knew the same songs, the same TV shows, the same trends. That is misleading, and that's not a true form of connection. What happens when we tap into our truth and our essence? We begin to shine from our own individual perspective, and we begin to come into a natural placement and natural order and become magnetized. Different places, different people, different scenarios based on that energy. And when we can be curious enough and compassionate enough and still enough to allow this to rise in other people as well, and we can drop some of the ego from the society that has been built up so strong all around superficiality, sexuality, materialism, false sense of fulfillment. When we can begin to drop that and become softer and open our hearts and become more receptive, we can allow the feminine nature of the forces to come into balance, to come into more of a balance. It's been repressed and misunderstood for a very long time. When we have that receptive state in love, embracing the uniqueness of others around us, there becomes a new way of being where each person's gifts is celebrated and ordered. in a natural way. And then what happens is you become seen for who it is that you actually are. And that is where the true fulfillment comes from. That is where the true love, the unconditional love, comes from. When you can feel safe to be who it is you really are, and you're not suffering from the denial, from not living your truth in this life, there's a relief, there's a great sacred knowing and celebration that this is the way to be. And so I encourage you to begin taking steps little by little every day to tune into who it is that you really are and how it is that you really want to be experiencing this life. Begin to become brave enough and build a trust with yourself to make better decisions throughout your day and experiences, to regroove your habits to be more in line with who it is that you really are. Become patient and compassionate and accepting when people introduce parts of who they really are. And just start to open your heart and feel the beauty that comes from this way of being that has nothing to do with trends or society or superficiality. It has to do with your essence, your natural gifts that only you know. No corporation can feed that to the masses for everyone to follow along with. Only you know. And we're here to diversify with our creativity and to honor that. And when it's not being honored, to tap into your authentic self, there's too much suffering and trauma. And then we need to deal with that. And it's just creating a mess. So I encourage you to just take some time out, build a relationship with yourself, trust that part of yourself that wants to come out. Allow yourself to have more of an experience aligned with what it is you really want to be experiencing in this life. And begin to share from that space. I hope this helped. I hope you have a beautiful day.